Kumusta ka mo? Hi, it's Viktoria Vox. Why is it that when someone says no offense meant or please don't take this negatively, the next line is almost always offensive? Tapos sila pa ni ang ma-shock nga na-upset ka, as if saying no offense becomes a band-aid for the uninvited things you are about to drop. As if saying no offense makes your remarks any less offensive. This happens way too often, both offline and online, and most often than not, on social media, especially in public accounts. So, ang kakatabo, may expectation nga maskin ano pa da ang hambalon mo, dapat batunon lang. Kay may disclaimer man ko na nga, no offense. Though CTTO lang na siya bala, it's actually meaningless. I recently got a long message from a viewer about my makeup therapy content. Long story short, it was about saying no offense, but then goes on to comparing me and giving unsolicited advice so my videos could please her. Should I change how I make my makeup therapy videos to please you? Ako ang ma-adjust para mas maging interesting para sa imo. On one hand, I wanted to be open to how my viewers felt, but on the other, I felt like my creative expression was trampled upon. So, din ko'y lugar lawas ko? Where do we draw the line between unsolicited advice and constructive criticism? Let's talk about that. First of all, my makeup therapy series' goal is not to entertain, it is to shed light on archaic Filipino culture and share some of my life experiences. I'm all for freedom of speech, especially for things that affect you, the way you live your life, and the well-being of those you love. The internet is open, and freedom of speech is alive and kicking. Wala ka man ganyan may maubra ko may nega nga tao who speak their mind for all the wrong reasons. Even if their intention is not to hurt, pero kung hurtful, gid man niya biyang ila nga pagkahambal. But I am here to say that yes, we can criticize and judge others in safer ways and constructively. In fact, we have laws in place to hold people liable for cyberbullying or making libelous remarks. And yes, I do recognize and believe in constructive criticism. But let's remember that constructive criticism comes with credibility. You earn that right through expertise and experience. That's what makes your criticism constructive, because you have all the credibility to back up your comments. If you are a professional athlete or a coach or a pro in sports industry, syempre you will have the insights that people in the bleachers won't. You have the right to critique an athlete constructively because expertise man na siya mo. Pero kung hindi ka coach or professional athlete or anyone with valuable experience in the industry you are critiquing, then what credibility do you have to back up your claim? How do you say things constructively? For example, in design, you say, oh, I don't like how this form is obstructing the etc. 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 Hindi nga hambalon mo lang ay kalaway sina. Naghambal ka lang laway pero wala ka man may ginhambal ng anything constructive to help that person out develop or grow how he designs things. People mistake constructive criticism with calling out what they see. Kay abi nila, mas mapaayo ni sa tao. But criticism without the backbone of credibility is just unsolicited advice. And yes, I do welcome constructive criticism as long as there are points to build from. Again, constructive, di bala? Meaning, dapat may solusyon to construct from. Comments like, ang pangit mo are not constructive for the reason nga wala man gid build ang ginahatag. Di na biyang imo solusyon sa gin-comment mo, aber, imbes nga mahatagan mo sang ideya kung ano mga aspects they need to work on, masakitan lang na sila or gapasapak-sapak ka lang, which is far from what the goal of constructive criticism is. These comments are actually just snarky remarks that do more harm than anything. And saying no offense meant will not lessen the blow. Take note, people who have public pages are not required to please you. Just because they have a public account doesn't mean they have to fill in every standard set by the public. Stop acting so entitled. If you do not uphold the etiquette a public page requires from its viewers and commenters, the owners of the page can actually ban you. This becomes a problem when people take it upon themselves to critique everything they see, publicly, as if they are entitled to throw shade at every piece of content in a public space. Doing this is actually a form of cyberbullying, which is called flaming, when a critique turns into an argument and a viewer starts dropping harsh words towards the creator because they're in a public space, where they assume that their comments are just freedom of speech, or worse, being brutally honest. To be clear, honesty isn't just about calling it as you see it. Yes, candor is a big factor, but you know what is just as great as candor? Compassion. These two go hand in hand when serving the truth, and these two should also go hand in hand when you raise a point, comment on a public page, or say anything about someone else. Being a content creator, to say the least, is challenging, and we constantly struggle to balance authenticity and expressing our art while being constantly scrutinized by the public. So, sino ang ma-adjust? Is it really that hard for us to educate ourselves on basic social media etiquette? Having a positive, or at least a decent conversation with someone that holds an opposing idea is possible. In fact, a few months back, I had a very productive conversation with a viewer who was opposed to the idea that utang na loob is toxic. But his approach was decent. Instead of dropping nasty comments, he messaged me personally to raise his opposition. And even then, we laid out what we both meant and stood for. We conversed and discussed the difference between utang na loob and forgiveness. And after we both heard from each other, we learned from each other. And that opposing viewer ended up supporting me in my video because he understood that context matters. A person who genuinely means well will take time to listen, but a person who is only letting rage run free will drop bombs in the comment section because they usually don't have the decency or the slightest intention to listen or learn. In that case, it says more about their ego and their inability to converse constructively. You know what? It's about time to retire the act of comparing content creators with one another. Oo, may ara guro similarities, pero magkaiba man na siya gyapon ng mga tao. It's okay to look up to people, to have preferences, to have even biases. Siyempre, tanan man tao lang ta. We all need to realize that we are separate from one another. We each have our ways to deliver or create our piece. Hinahinay lang ta bala maghatag sa mga comments, especially kung hindi, man gid siya bala constructive, how? If you were a doctor sharing your insights about depression, I would gladly heed more. Pero kung wala ka man pang backup, di ano na lang ayhan, abi pag-scroll ka na lang don't me. Behind the screens, we are real people with real feelings too. Your words can be impactful in both positive and negative ways. It's not that we expect the feedback to always be warm and positive, pero may limitasyon man agyapon kung asa diin ang kaya i-handle sang isa ka tawo sa mga comments. Here's a fact for you to ponder on. You know what, sometimes even if the majority of the comments are positive, the negative ones outweigh those. And most of the time, they scream louder. Oftentimes when we carelessly run our mouths, we don't realize how it can lead to someone questioning the value of their craft. And this goes especially to the younger creators who might easily be discouraged. Tungod lang sa abi mo nga, you're just being honest. Next thing you know, wala na siya bilib para sa lawas niya. You wouldn't want to be the reason why someone quits doing what they love and pursuing their passions, right? I'm just thankful to have positive reinforcement and an anchor that keeps me on bay. If you're watching this and have been on the receiving end of judgment and criticisms, remember that the hurtful remarks dropped at you are a reflection of the author, not you. You can even measure how far you've gone in life by how many people care too much to go out of their way to judge you. The bottom line is that before we speak, we should make it a habit to assess our intentions. What is the purpose behind leaving such a comment? Kinahanglan gid man na siya i-call out or i-address? Are you also providing a solution? Do you come with credibility to leave such remarks? More importantly, are these things something that the person has control over and can change? Does what we say contribute more harm than good? Our words hold weight. Amo na nga hagan-hagan lang tabala sa pag-comment daw sa kung paano ta i-deliver ang mga ginapanghambal ta. Remember, candor on its own is reckless, but candor held with compassion, that's honesty. Exercise the habit of processing your words before saying them out loud. Is the overall tone hostile? Is there a better way to say it? Think before you speak. Bala na yung ginatawag how? Sure, it's nice to be honest, but there's a difference between being blunt and speaking with lack of sensitivity. Opening your sentence with "no offense" does not warrant for you to make inconsiderate remarks. Sometimes there are better things left unsaid, especially if there's nothing good or no change that comes out of it. I hope today we are all reminded of basic human decency. Before you run your mouth or your keypad, ask yourself, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? I know that the world wasn't built perfectly. There are times where it will be a harsh place. Amo na hindi man natin maiwasan, masakitan kag makasakit. Pero tani lang bala, we come to a point where we take accountability for what we contribute to this space. Before you drop a comment, assess your intention. Am I saying this out of candor and compassion? Is this the best way to deliver this idea? Have I considered both sides? Am I considering sensitivity? Let's be more mindful. With the words we release, we never know how powerful they may be. This is the 25th episode of this Make a Therapy series, and if you like content such as this, please hit the like, the share, comment your thoughts down below, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye!